today's time, you cannot ignore or avoid analytics in the marketing field. We are saying that AI is going to take up all the jobs in the market. We are saying that AI is going to be the only thing left based on which all the companies will run job with sales, right? Your professional career with sales initially. Do it for at least 2 to 3 years. No matter what you do after that, that's your choice. When I say learning, it is something as simple as keeping one execution requirement with you personally. So for me today, if I have to give an example, I am running two campaigns of my digital marketing myself, and I am running two campaigns of two cities of offline marketing to myself.
Hey there, welcome to Marketing Mavericks with Indiefolio. Today we have Mehul Raja with us. Mehul currently is spearheading the development and implementation of growth strategies at Gynoveda. He's been a CMO of some fantastic companies and he actually started his entire career learning mathematics. So we talk about his journey from math to marketing and how he's gone across various categories and really build growth strategies for a lot of companies. Thank you so much for your time and welcome to the podcast, Mehul.
It's my pleasure, Kavan. Thank you so much.
Mehul, I think you've had a very, very interesting story from, I think, leading marketing with very interesting companies and categories
Hmm.
to even having your own, startup in the middle. There's a lot of things which I think people would love to do the way you've kind of done in the last 20,
Hmm.
30 years of your career.
Yeah.
But before I get into your entire journey, I want to actually start right at the beginning. If I'm
Hmm.
not wrong, I think you were studying mathematics, right? And then you were in Mumbai
Yes.
University. How is it that somebody studying mathematics got very curious with marketing? If you can tell us that journey, it'll be awesome.
Sure. So, mathematics has always come naturally to me. So, I have always done well in maths. My approach to education had always been more of logical based, understanding based learning, and not the age old rote learning, right? So, that's where maths always fit my area of expertise uh, since the start, and that's where I chose it. And post marketing, to be very honest, I felt what next because I didn't want to leave my education uh, just at the graduation level. And in India at that time, it was more like that till the time you've not done post grad. And MBA was a fad at that time, right? So I actually went with the flow at that time. I wanted to do MBA. And when in the first year, there were all these seven different subjects of all different types. You had to do marketing, you had to do operations, you had to do HR, all of those basics, right? In the first year of your management post graduation years. At that time, when marketing subject came in, I was able to come up with a lot of ideas, suggestions, creativity. My answers were far too better than the others, if I could say that. And that's where my natural instincts took over me, and I went into marketing because finance I never understood, to be honest, even though I was very strong in maths. And finance along with economics and all that, that was slightly far-fetched for me. Though now I believe that whatever that first year learning was there, that has helped me in a lot of strategies. Now that I am at a very senior level, it's helping me a lot. But at that time, it was like, oh gosh, no, I don't want to get into economics.
Understood. Understood. I think, I would love to ask you this question about generally who is marketing for? Because generally people feel, yeah, marketing is like making ads, working with celebrities, doing
Right.
meta and stuff like that. And then you usually think that you have to be like a creative person only to kind of get into marketing. So you've had a background in math. uh, I've hosted so many CMOs on this podcast for engineers who ended up
Mhm.
becoming marketeers. So who is
Mhm.
marketing really for? Is it for the creative brain or is it for the analytical brain?
All right. So, see, this has to be now in current scenario to be answered differently. But I'll tell you where I went into
Hmm.
marketing and where a lot of people also still think that they should get into marketing is when you are able to, throw a lot of ideas, using a lot of your combination of right and left brain to, create a, story which is going to be really, impacting the viewer or the listener. If you are able to touch that soul of the listener in
Mhm.
any way with a story, right, which you convert into an ad, you are made for marketing. So that's where your answer number one comes in, that if you have a very creative thought process, which you're able to convert into, actual story, marketing is for you. But now that we are into
Mhm.
the age of digital, right? Today, digital is taking over the world by storm. Till about 7 years back, digital marketing was barely about 20%, and 80% was still non-digital marketing across the globe, and especially in India. We are still about 5 years behind the West, right? And now that we are in the space where digital has taken over more than 40% of marketing ad spends, if I can use that word, and also marketing efforts, analytical aspects come into the picture a lot more. That's where, if you see, you just said a few minutes back that you had to interview a lot of people who were from engineering background and they were CMOs, right? So engineering, and along with that, what I have done, mathematics and statistics, these are number games, and these help you to become very, very analytical. And in today's time, you cannot ignore or avoid analytics in the marketing field at all. In fact, MarTech and further on from MarTech to growth verticals, all of them rely on at least 40 to 50% of their approach driven decisions on analytics, and maybe for 50% on creative thought processes and ideas.
Fantastic. So I think it's essentially a combination of both of these things, and I think you have to really understand how to like play with data and also be very
Oh,
creative in
yes.
communicating things, whichever you
Yes.
kind of come up with. So now I wanted to kind of ask you a little bit more about focus in your career, right? I think a lot of advice goes that stick to one category, become a domain expert. Maybe you'll one day become a CEO. Let's say, for example, like a BFSI or an education field,
Mhm.
and do all roles within that. Then there are also folks, especially like you, who've gone ahead and done various things in various categories, right? Uh,
Yeah.
uh, like in your case, I think you've done a lot of work in edtech. Obviously, currently you're in women's health and healthcare, and I think you had your own agency. You've done banking and insurance as well, etc. So, what's generally your framework to kind of decide, should you go more on versatility, or should you kind of be more focused on one category?
All right. So there is a very age-old saying which says change is the only constant, and that is applicable
Mm,
across in any aspect of life, be it your career, profession, your own personal life, everywhere. And that's where, if you accept that and you adapt yourself to the new, whatever comes in, it is going to be very helpful. Very simple
mhm,
anecdote. Healthcare marketing in India till 4 years back was very open, right? Because it
mhm,
was open, government was less involved, rules and regulations were lesser. Even the digital platforms like Google and Meta were open, right? In Europe, suddenly in the year after COVID of 2022, in Europe, these guys introduced a lot of restrictions, specifically marketing or advertising regarding healthcare. There was a
yeah.
sudden change wherein even the algorithms had to change overnight. Google restricts has started
Mm,
restricting your targeting. It started restricting the way you will be able to market on digital also, because digital is very, very specific,
mm,
very, very targeted. In healthcare, they started telling us that, boss, we cannot give you those signals. You have to do open marketing. We cannot tell you who is
mm,
facing problems in healthcare so that you can target them. Sorry. And suddenly that also happened 6 months back on Meta. So now what do?
mm,
We have to adapt. What I did simply was I went into a completely MarTech mode, I understood on ground how the non-healthcare restricted categories, even something as bad as alcohol, how are they marketing digitally? Because they're also not getting those signals, right? There are restrictions. They're doing a lot of surrogate marketing.
Yeah.
I had to create my own strategy in Gynoveda to start getting more better quality targeting opportunities on Meta and Google for getting customers. That was a big change.
Hmm.
And if I am at the age of 45 learning new things, everyone at every age has to do it, right? And this is true across all the marketeers. Algorithm changes itself every 6 months. What are we talking, right? So digital algorithms,
Right.
when you talk, right, the way a marketer is able to market his or her products on Google and Facebook and Instagram, that approach only changes because their algorithm changes every 6 months. So if you as a
Hmm.
marketer are not keeping on learning continuously and learning to adapt continuously, how are you going to be a successful marketer? You'll be thrown aside.
I think, what I love about sales is when you come up with a plan, you get immediate feedback from your customer in a raw
True.
format, doing sales. Because often in marketing, there's a lot of guesswork, a lot of like objective data you look at. But getting that,
Yes,
1:1, reaction of your customer, I think makes a very fantastic feedback loop for you to learn. So yeah, I couldn't
precisely.
couldn't agree, more. Um,
Yes.
Today a lot of people like to start up, and I think you've had your own stint of having your own company, and I think you've also had a large corporate career as well. So for anybody who's maybe curious about entrepreneurship, like what how was your experience like, and would you recommend entrepreneurship to people? Who is it for, and why should you start a company at the end of the day?
When you're talking about entrepreneurship for me was actually more of a forced decision because when I was working with Tata Teleservices and then I moved to MTS, right? So Tata Photon Learnings, where I had launched the brand Tata Photon from scratch, and from a zero revenue, I bought it up to a 2,000 crore brand. Uh, that learning gave me an opportunity to work with a brand like MTS, where I was heading the marketing for the entire West region for all its products, right? When you are working in telecom and then suddenly there is a 2G scam, wherein all the companies, telecom companies, where more than 25,000 employees were working and building their own brands, they were suddenly asked to stop by the Supreme Court. The companies had to shut. What opportunity did you have as a person when you were suddenly told, we are extremely sorry, this is not in our hands, government has asked us to shut, right? You realize that, boss, like you, there are more than 20,000 CVs floating in the market from those 10 companies who were asked to shut operations. We said, fine, we've got a lot of network. Let us start on our own. Let's start an agency. I started an agency. The first 6 months were difficult, of course, for any entrepreneur. It's a very, very big challenge. Fortunately, my sales experience helped me to understand that yes, rejections are part of life. After 6 months, we got our first opportunity. We started doing a lot of real estate marketing in India and then in Dubai. And then you realize that this is also not easy. We did a lot of marketing for good real estate companies. I went to Dubai. I stayed there for 6 months to create one real estate marketing strategy for a brand. At that time, I cannot name the brand, but that was one of the biggest brands in UAE at that time, right? It was competing with the Emars of the world at that time. I went there as a consultant for them. My agency did a lot of BTL, ATL marketing for them. Got good amount of money at that time. My first 12 months revenue was at around 2 crores in the first 12 months itself. For a new agency, that was big, right? But what happened was that I felt that amount was less because my expenses were close to around 1 crore and 80 lakhs at that time for getting their entire plan executed. So net in the first year, I earned only 20 lakhs, of which I had to pay a lot of taxes, etc. A lot of things happened. And then you realize suddenly that, oh gosh, this is not sustainable. You try and stretch for one more year, and then you realize this is not sustainable. But what I learned in the process is again, how to become more sustainable in life, in your profession. Plus, when you are thrown down on the ground due to a mistake which is not yours, It
mm,
was a government order due to some scam which was done by some government minister at that time. But you were thrown out of job. Still, you had to build yourself from scratch.
yeah,
For 2 years, I again learned the aspects of marketing, and then I realized that in that, digital is the next step forward.
mm,
So, in that process of marketing for the real estate companies in the UAE, which were a bit advanced than us, I realized digital is the way forward.
mm,
I did a course on digital. I ran the campaigns myself as a campaign manager or campaign executive.
mm,
I learned the nuances of algorithms. I learned the nuances of targeting. I learned the nuances of visualizing the customer's expectations and make those creatives like
mm,
a static ad or carousel to run on the
mm,
digital campaigns. And then I realized, wow, I'm able to do this also well.
right,
Why not excel in digital marketing along with offline marketing?
mm,
I did that for another 6 months. The organization for whom I did it, they also got their output out of my campaigns, and they're like, "Mehul, you've done a wonderful job. Thank you so much. Here's the payment." And they gave a reference to one head of marketing in Times Professional Learning, which is a Times Group company.
mm,
That guy said, "Mehul, what are you doing? Agency is not sustainable. Come, I'll give you a head of marketing job." I said, "Okay, you are right. I'm not able to sustain myself." And then I joined the Times Group,
mm,
and their education arm was called Times Professional Learning. And he told me, boss, you have done a wonderful job in digital marketing. There are a handful of people who know digital marketing properly in India.
mm,
You will be personally setting up my entire digital marketing team.
mm,
So I got the opportunity to work as a head of marketing for Times Professional Learning and set up the entire digital team also along with offline marketing at that time for Times Professional Learning. Because there were a very handful of people in head of marketing who knew digital marketing at that time.
right.
And that's when I realized that was entrepreneurship is your definite stepping stone to success,
Mm.
either as a business person or it helps you to learn something which is going to be useful in your job.
Fantastic.
So I
That's
would definitely recommend please go ahead and do an entrepreneurship stint in your life.
well, incredible story. I feel what I hear is it definitely teaches you frugality, which I couldn't,
Yes.
agree more on. And as you said, I think do entrepreneurship with the outcome to at least learn. Like often people want to grow very fast or make, billions of dollars in 3 years. And the moment you start, you realize, okay, it's really hard. So just get up every day and I think have the objective to learn, then I think you'll have a very fruitful, entrepreneurial journey.
Oh,
So
yes.
couldn't agree more. I want to now, jump into Gynoveda a little bit more and ask you, generally, how did you end up kind of, doing a big stint at like I think edtech for a long time, then jumped into a pretty different field, right? So would love to know that story and anything specifically which kind of attracted you about this category because I think what you're marketing is something so personal and it's just generally very different than education. So I was just curious to know that story.
Sure. So I'll probably want to answer this in two parts. So how we'll go about it is the first part where how did I get into such a different category as healthcare? Now, wherever you go across the world, marketing is all about basics, right? You understand your product, you understand your consumer, you improve your product as a product manager based on consumer insights, and then start advertising it. It's as simple as that. Think it in this way that no matter where you go in the world, people need a good ad, people need a good product to be marketed. So I stuck to my basics, and that's what if you see, I have been in a company where I was initially marketing, uh, telecom. From telecom, got into education. After education, I then now moved to healthcare. But by God's grace or by virtue of my habit of learning, I have been able to add value to those organizations wherever I have been. I have been always appreciated, right? So that's something which I attributed to my, learnings of marketing that everything is basics. You stick to basics and then you will be successful. And second is, of course, always keep on learning. I've been ensuring that I learn and keep on learning on a regular basis.
Mhm. Fantastic. You drive
Now,
a huge portion. Yes, what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, so I wanted to probably just complete my answer
Mm,
on the second aspect, women healthcare, right? Why
mm,
did I join Gynoveda? Uh, One is that I've always been associated with sunrise sectors, be it telecom when I was with telecom, and then after that when education was growing with edtech, and then healthcare when it was growing, I am with healthcare, right? And that's something which has been, uh, a chance for me, not necessarily by choice, right?
mm,
But what I've also learned is that whenever you are in a sunrise sector, there are
mm,
two things that come in. One is that you have an opportunity to try new things,
mm.
and second, you have the opportunity to grow in that sector very fast yourself, as well as you are able to grow the brand very fast. So for
Right.
me, healthcare, one, because it was sunrise sector. Second, they were trying to solve something which was also where I had interest in.
Mm,
Solve healthcare problems of a girl or a woman
mm,
with Ayurveda. And
mm,
that's something which is very, very close to my heart. I have always been a big fan of Indian culture, and by virtue of that, also of Charak Samhita, which is India's 5,000-year-old Ayurveda science book, right?
mm.
That's the Bible of Ayurveda, if you can call, or Gita of Ayurveda, which you can call. I've been a big fan. I've been doing it or reading it for quite some time now, and I've been using it in my life also in any kind of problems on health. So this is one big opportunity that I felt that I'm going to be able to give it back probably to the society also in some way or the other. And that's where I felt, let's jump into this.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, tell me a little bit more about your channel mix, right? I think you're contributing to a huge chunk of the revenue. Um,
Mhm.
what does it look like? Like, I'm trying to extract an insight for maybe a marketer who's just joined, maybe in your category, or if I'm a founder who's trying to kind of do I'm trying to grow my, category in this, I let's say fem
Yes.
health, Ayurveda, etc. all combined. What does the channel mix usually look like?
All right. See, for Gynoveda, we have always been digital first, but that also stems from the fact that any entrepreneur who starts out today or someone who has started out in 23, 24, and then beyond that, they all have to start digital first for two very standard regular reasons. One is that you are able to measure what amount you're pumping in, you are able to measure the ROI, plus you are able to tweak your approaches based on that feedback very fast.
Hmm.
Unlike your strategy where you're trying to be offline, which is going to be very difficult to pull back as a campaign if you have launched something or tweak it in between, right? So digital is always going to be the way forward for any new entrepreneur in any field.
Hmm. I see. I see.
And then, of
So
course, after you've grown to a certain level. For us, we kept that benchmark at 100 crore plus as a revenue. Then you start doing your offline pilots and start creating strategies which are a 360-degree marketing, be it BTL, be it ATL, and continue with digital as an enabler. You have to do that. But initially, it has to be digital first.
understood. And if I'm trying to build, let's say, not for the metros, but even beyond that, does digital still play an important role?
It plays a very important role.
Hmm.
See, digital today, if we talk about purely penetration of digital or internet in India, the penetration is at 88% in India, right?
Hmm.
Then, if you come to the stats, which is digital marketing based stats, a medium like a Facebook or an Instagram or a Snapchat or a TikTok, erstwhile TikTok or a YouTube Shorts under Google ecosystem, they have got a penetration of 79% in India of social media usage.
Hmm.
How can you ignore that as a channel?
Correct.
Even in tier two and tier three, digital is the first step you take.
Correct.
Then, after the first 6 months of your learnings of communication, what works, what doesn't, you do a few pilot offline marketing wherein you are using hoardings, radio, and auto rickshaw branding in tier two, not in metros, in tier two. You are able to understand that, your digital plays a very strong role. and enabled with a bit of offline marketing, which is maybe 20 or 30% focus, you are able to ensure that your digital gives you outcome, which is also measurable and it gives a good ROI.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think the measurability is such an attractive thing. If you're trying to do a go-to-market which is digital first, you learn so much with your marketing efforts. Who's engaging, who's not, what cohorts are I think really resonating with you. So I think I'm also a huge proponent of that. Um, we are just towards the end of the podcast now, and I have to cover AI. So obviously, AI has it's pretty clear now that AI is going to be a big part of our lives, but I
Yes.
just wanted to kind of, put you on the spot and ask you, what do you think is the most underrated thing about AI, and what do you think is the most overrated thing about AI?
See, what I would probably want to say is underrated thing about AI is its utilization even today, wherein even the Gen Zs who have just started out in their professional career, or even probably they are in their last few years of college, they are using very basics of AI, like a
Mm,
chat GPT, to create an image or an avatar of themselves, and use that avatar in their DPs or stories once in a while, right? Or just to try and find some answers to some problems in their life, they're using some prompts on chat GPT or Gemini or Perplexities, and they are just getting those answers. That is something which is probably an insult to AI today, and that's also the most underrated thing about AI, because it is not able to market itself, nor are the brands marketing the strong potential of AI beyond that, right?
mhm,
uh, However, when you're talking about the fact that what is the most overrated thing about AI, we are saying that AI is going to take up all the jobs in the market. We are saying that AI is going to be the only thing left based on which all the companies will run. That's definitely not true. If
mm,
you are, if you had been through one of the examples which a study was done on ground in Europe, where AI was being used uh, to scan the body for any kind of problems like a CT scan and an MRI, where AI was used. Everything was automated. Then suddenly you realize that people have started, hiring more and more people in those hospitals and those diagnostic centers, because AI was able to generate jobs. How? AI was able to generate jobs by hastening or fastening the entire process of scan and output, which
mm,
is sharing results. So it was able to automate that part of scan. It was able to automate the results, which was normally taking at least 24 to 48 hours to analyze.
mm,
And hence, the productivity was very less. So
mhm.
people who were being scanned, right, their requirement or their queue was very less at that time, because each of them was taking a lot of time to scan and get the results and all. So doctors were not recommending scan at that time. Now, today, in the last 3 months, suddenly the queue of those scans has increased to about 4x, because the output is faster. The
Mm,
doctors are getting more time to take in new patients.
mm.
So AI created more and more business
Correct.
by getting more people, and because they were getting more people, there was more hiring. So
Yeah.
instead of taking jobs, there was more people who were getting hired.
Very interesting. I
So
think whenever you
yeah,
make something simpler, generally the commerce around it increases, right? Like it's
hmm,
easier for people to learn it. There are more seekers for it. People want more of it. So I think overall it's good, but I think there are some definite areas like rote work. If your expertise was just doing rote work, then I think it's time you really reinvent yourself. So couldn't agree more there.
that's human
Uh,
nature again, Kavan. I mean, as soon as you feel that you are being threatened by something,
yeah,
your first instinct, which is the human instinct, is to survive.
right.
And in matter of surviving, you're definitely going to learn something new.
Correct.
You're going to try and sustain yourself in life.
Right.
And that's where you learn that, okay, forget AI. I've got more to add to AI. This is what I'm going to do. And suddenly you realize, okay, fine, I'm better than AI and I'm able to do better in life again. It
Correct.
is human nature. You sustain and survive, and you'll outgrow your problems always.
Fantastic, Mehul. I think having a great conversation with you. I hope you're also having a good time. It's it's the end of the podcast now, and I'd love to kind of ask this to you as a parting thought. If you could
Mhm.
advise any young marketer today who who wants to be, let's say, be a CMO one day, be a head of marketing one day, like what's generally an approach you'd recommend them, or what mindset should they have to be a CMO one day?
Right. So here I would recommend only three things, a very three-step success formula, which has helped me a lot of other people like me. One is that start your job with sales, right? Your professional career with sales initially. Do it for at least 2 to 3 years, right? No matter what you do after that, that's your choice. But if you start your career with sales, that is your first step to success. Second, always remember that your marketing learnings are only for you. But when you're implementing it, it has to be from the perspective of the customer. Whatever communication you create, ads, strategies, ideas, product, only think whether it is going to be helpful for my customer. Will it add value to my customer? Then that is the second step to success. Third, always keep on learning new things, no matter what. When I say learning, it is something as simple as keeping one execution requirement with you personally. So for me today, if I have to give an example, I am running two campaigns of my digital marketing myself, and I'm running two campaigns of two cities of offline marketing to myself. I'm personally executing them as an execution guide. What it is doing is giving me learnings every day. Something new is coming up, and that keeps you abreast with your new things coming in the market, your customer insights, and you're able to use them in your strategy and be successful. So never forget to learn continuously and keep executing at some form or the other in your career, even if you are a CMO.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being so articulate and so action oriented with all your advice. It's always a delight to hear that. And this marks the end of the conversation. Thank you so much, Mehul. I had a great time having you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much, Kawan. Thank you for having me on.
Always a pleasure as well. And for everybody who's tuned along, thank you so much. If you'd like to hear another marketing leader, please subscribe to our channels, and a new episode will come out very soon. Bye bye.